One, we're going to just make sure that you're good to go with steps 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to do an overview of how then, once you have your emails done and you've approved your emails, then through your workflow, then how do you send them with Recruitment Pro? So we'll do a bit of a live training on that. We will, and we will also add in here with time and as sort of driven by the two of you, right, Emporia and Colorado State. We can either go into what you need in order to help you get started, or we can do a deeper dive into the HTML editor elements. Either way, I think the first 2 bullets there are only going to take about 15 minutes. So we have the rest of the 45 minutes that we can either jumpstart you in your program or go deeper dive into HTML, and we'll let you guide us on that as to which you would prefer. Alicia has another GoToMeeting account that if the two of you wanted to do separate things, we could easily make that happen to take advantage of the 45 minutes that you have this morning for EMAS Campaign Builder. With our intention, our largest intention is to get you moving as soon as possible on it so that you can test it out and run with it. Questions, comments, preferences? All right, and then we're going to go straight into that. Just as a reminder, right, step 1 is the configuring your system for your users. Step 2 is, of course, bringing in your template and your media files and converting the, configuring the elements of your template so that your users in step 3 can build the emails that they would like to build. So we're now in step 4 and step 5 today, which is finalizing the content and the branding. Excuse me, essentially approving the work that anybody on your campus did in step 3, and then number 5, bringing it into Recruitment Pro. So we're focusing on 2 steps today. Again, we're going to speak as administrators of the system, and then also offer advice to any HTML editors in this, if they happen to be, right, if the HTML editor is the person that is doing the HTML, the saving of the file for you. There's not a lot of code in what we're going to talk about today, but saving the file as an HTML file and then sending it in EMAS may be something that your HTML editor might do. But really, we're speaking at the administrator, EMAS champion level in today's session. Just a quick check-in on your user account. Anybody finding any issues or hiccups as you go to build more users, more user groups, and creating your workflow? Lois, can we start with you? How are you doing on that?
We didn't do a lot with it. We just decided to leave it at the administrator level for now until we feel comfortable with it. Okay. Quite honestly, neither Tiffany or I have had time this week to do anything with it. So my purpose this morning is just to sit in and look and watch and listen.
Okay. All right. Cool. And Roxy?
I'm going to let Kate talk about what she has done. But we're both delving into it, but I'll let Kate talk because she's the HTML person.
Okay, yeah, good.
We haven't done, we've added all of ourselves, Roxy and I, plus international education is coming on to EMAS as well, so we went ahead and added their director or whatever Brian is. So we've only added a couple people, but we haven't had any problems yet.
Okay. Okay, good.
Our marketing HTML guy is going to go on vacation, but we might ask him if he would want to be on it when he gets back.
Okay.
Are you mainly talking about like the different elements that we learned last week?
I'm very happy to go into that too. Right? Did you have any hiccups filling your library with images or yeah, configuring your templates?
No, I haven't so far. I'm just getting started. We've been crazy busy as well with the beginning of the semester, but I've done a little bit of it and I haven't had any problems yet.
Okay. How about you, Lois? I'm assuming that this stage is also has been a sort of overcome by other time obligations, yeah?
It absolutely has, yes.
Okay. All right. Then what I might ask for the two of you, but at the end of the session here, is we'll do on Friday we've set aside time to also configure elements, but maybe what you could do is help me out with the date of the next training, where you might have had time, where we can get together and then we collectively brainstorm problems, solutions. Walk me through this again. I know you taught it last month, but I need a refresher. The next training. So maybe that's 2 weeks away. Maybe that's 3 weeks away, so that you can sort of balance all of the other things that are on your plate. But we can be of service to you as you're ready to dive in, and we're wanting to do that for you. Not quite sure how to do that for you in our best way. So we'll take your advice at the end of the session here.
Great.
Okay. So today's objectives are to review and approve your email. What are the steps in there, and then exporting the code from Campaign Builder, importing the code into EMAS Recruitment Pro, and then you sort of configure your email as you do. More than we're just going to really be talking about the export part, because I think both Lois and Kate and Roxy, you're very well versed in how do you save a template file in EMAS Recruitment Pro, and then how do you use it to email. So unless you need that, we won't cover that. But just so that you know, in order to go full circle, exporting the HTML code and then importing it as a file in EMAS is what you would need to do in order to get it sent in Campaign Pro. So we're going to cover today how to change the status of an email in a few places, how to export that code and then save the email template code. And I'm going to rely on Alicia's wonderful digital diva-ness to help me with that explanation there. And if you need to, we'll do cover number 4th bullet, but I don't know that we need to do that since it's something that you do relatively often. But we can go there. We're ready to go there. And again, everything that we share today is in the user guide and the EMAS Campaign Pro documentation, and of course you'll have the video of today's training up on EMASU within a few hours. We seem to get that pretty well done as a turnaround for you. So I'm going to open up EMAS Campaign Builder. Right, so you would come in, if say you're layperson, right? Somebody in marketing for Emporia, or somebody in international education, or for you, Lois, if it's time for somebody's created your emails, then you would have a list of them here. You would very easily be able to see. You would get a notification in your email inbox that says it's been moved from under construction to in review, right? So something has moved to in review. Either let me see if I can find one. Here's one right here that actually would say in review. So as an administrator of EMAS Campaign Builder, you would come to EMAS Campaign Builder and to the email screen, and for all of the emails that you have been given permission to see, right? Most of you will have it for everything, but it could be that there are some right, sort of some in your workflow at the in-review stage that don't get to see what happens in the athletic department. They only get to see what happens in the art department's emails. So for those that you are given permissions to see, you can come and see which ones are in review, right? You might have 5 that are in review, but for today's purpose, we're just going to look at the one that's here and in review. Your job would then be to go either look at the email, right, and just double check that it's all written well and that right, all the spelling is right, whatever your branding choices would be in your approval process, whether you're looking at pictures or text or words or testing links, all of that would be part of your approval process. So you could then, once it's good to go, then you can come here and change the status to approved. And that then changes it. Oh, yeah, it's prompting me. I have to not just change the status, but I also have to save the change. Right? So now I can go back to that email, and I forgot which one it was now. I didn't even look at the title of it. But now we have an approved email. And where did it go? There. Well, there's one of them.
I think you closed without saving changes.
I did? I thought I hit yes and save changes. But thank you very much for that. This is under construction. We'll do that one again. So we're going to turn this from in review to approved. And I'm going to save, or I save and submit. That's the thing. I save and submit. Is that correct? I think I do in order to send it into the next status. My practice email. That was number 2. Let me just be sure. Maybe we found a hiccup here.
Yeah, it's at the top now because we just changed it.
Oh, good. Great. Thank you for that. So it's now approved. And now what you can do is, as an administrator, if there are 2 people to review, because you might have 5 different people that review your email, and only 1 person at the approval level, right? That's your user groups. Sorry, your status assignments. You want to be able to, now that it's approved, now you're going to export it, right? So once it's approved in your workflow, whoever does that approval, they're making sure that your branding is bulletproof, right? Now, either the HTML editor or whoever is in charge of communications, or it's the same person who approved the email, they can go ahead and export. But there's a hiccup here because you don't have an export file name. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create the export file name, and the thing that you need to make sure happens in all of your export file names is that you type in the HTML document type. And it has to be in the export file name in order for it to be saved in the right place, in the right way for EMAS, for use within EMAS Recruitment Pro. Questions on this? Okay, so there are 3 layers of this export file name. Depending on permissions, the person who creates the email could create an export file name because they have a naming convention that they want to follow. The person in review could also double check that the export file name is using the right naming convention and has the HTML as a file extension. And finally, the last person to approve needs to make sure that that export file name is correctly, it has the correct naming convention and the right file type associated with it. And then it's pretty simple from there. You export, there's a 2-step export process, right? You can either copy this entire code and paste it into whatever document like Notepad++ that you'd like, or you can export the file to wherever it is that you're looking for on your hard drive or wherever it is that you're saving your files. Questions on this process? And you can see my 2 tests here from yesterday's activities or previous activities. It's saving as file type HTML, and it's saving as a file name my practice template. And I'm going to, just for fun, because I like to put dates on things, 08/15. That gives me the date that I've imported that, saved that file into my G drive. Now, yeah.
When we're importing in our HTML template that marketing has done for us before, they and then we opened them and saved them, but with a naming convention, but we couldn't allow any spaces. Does this allow? I've seen you added an underscore and some spaces or hyphens, but is that allowed?
You know, that's I think we have not found, and Alicia, you can correct me in your testing too. We have not found that we haven't found either way, right? Alicia, I've seen we've exported files with spaces, with names with spaces and with underscores and hyphens. What's been your experience, Alicia?
I think that you can save it with spaces, but whether or not you can bring it back into Recruitment Pro with spaces, I don't know. If Recruitment Pro will not handle spaces, then I would suggest to go ahead and stick to the convention of not using them.
If you load them back, you load them into Recruitment Pro as an existing document, an existing HTML document.
Yes.
So, from my experience, I found that our Recruitment Pro doesn't allow that.
Okay, yeah. That. So if recruitment won't take spaces, then even though ECB will allow you to save it with spaces, it's probably best if you just stick with the convention of not using spaces.
Okay.
Yeah. So your experience, right? Your previous experience with EMAS Recruitment Pro and EMAS Campaign Pro in saving files, documents, right, and naming them and then saving the documents. Trust that experience and bring EMAS Campaign Builder into that. So if you think of EMAS Recruitment Pro as the mothership, right? Honor the mothership first, and then engage EMAS Campaign Builder as a sort of following suit.
Okay.
The only thing that we know for sure, right? We know for sure that besides your experience is that the .html, not the .htm, but the .html suffix needs to be added there at this point in the process. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to come back to here, and that's pretty much it in terms of exporting. I'm just going to check the user guide to be sure. Right, so we've got. Oh, there's one more thing I forgot here in the testing, which is the testing the device to make sure that it works in the right way. So we'll cover that in just a minute. But just so that you know and have the reassurance, our user guide instruction for reviewing and approving the emails is a relatively short process. Out of the 37 pages of this user guide document, this review and approve the email is relatively quick, or just in terms of steps that you would have to go through. And I'm going to come back to EMAS Campaign Builder here, just so we can do that preview. If you haven't used this preview button, here's the option in your different devices. Currently, EMAS Campaign Builder offers you what this looks like in the different devices. I'm going to come down here. This is Galaxy X. This is Nexus. This is iPhone 5, iPhone 6, iPhone Plus, iPad, iPad Pro, and then your desktops. So you would be able to see very easily on the screen what it looks like in each of these. Now, one of the things that we can do either today or in another lesson with EMAS services, you have the power of being able to go in and see what devices, right, your students more than likely open up your emails in. So you can do a historical trends analysis and see what they typically open up in, so that if Nexus 5.6 is not something that shows up as something that, then you might not care, right, to spend time to make sure that this is responsive on the right Nexus, right? But if you see that iPads and desktops are mostly the way, or phones, for instance, right, so you have an option to be able to see all of those different devices. And again, that's data analysis in EMAS services, which isn't really the topic today, but just that's a connection between your data analysis and what Campaign Builder is empowering you to be able to see. Questions on that? Okay, so as part of the approval process, you're going through and you're editing the email if you need to, right? So you can make any choices you need to. Once you're done, save and submit. If you're in process, just keep saving. But once you're done and ready to go to the next stage in your workflow from in review to approved, then save and submit. You have the preview and then finally the export. If you wanted to test just to see what it looks like, then you have the power to be able to click on that email and send a test to yourself so that you can see what the actual email looks like before you send it out through EMAS Campaign Pro. Questions?
Hey, Sarah. Have they made any advances on changing it to where there could be more than one email for the approval? Because like Kate and I and Brian would probably want to have the ability to approve the emails.
Sure. So, yes, I understand.
My email is the only one that's on there right now.
Okay. So let me just double check with you in terms of statuses. I'm thinking that this is where you would fix that first. Right? So in the statuses that you would want to make sure that you and Kate and that other gentleman whose name I've forgotten.
Brian.
Brian.
And we all have that access to do that.
Okay.
We're all considered administrators.
Okay. And you've set the status in this screen. Yes? Okay, yes. And you've set it also in the in-review screen.
Yes.
Okay. I think then the other question you're asking for is in the default, the default notify user. Yeah, that is beyond sort of being able to say who can approve what. This default notify user is still under an enhancement request, and I think we've heard from Washington State University that they, in addition to you, want 3 emails in there, or more than 1 email in there, rather than just the 1. So that's still in process.
Okay.
But the way that the way that you can work around that right now is to just change the statuses and make sure that everybody that you want at each level is included.
Okay.
Yeah, so just to dovetail on that, everybody in the approved status should be receiving the notification email as soon as any email is approved, any email in their user group is approved. So all 3 of you, if you're all in that status, should be receiving a notification whenever an email becomes approved. Or sorry, okay. whenever it changes into the status that you're a member of. So if you want it to be in the status of in review, you would receive the notification when it's changed to in review, and etc.
Okay, cool. Then just a last summary, right? So another just one page of the user guide, and this is probably the simple part because you already know it. The exporting, once you've exported the HTML code, right? Go to the general information and change the file name, and then the thing that one of the things that we've come to find out is that in the process, it's very helpful for the person doing the exporting of the HTML code that you remember the subject name and the file name when you get to the right places in name communications and creating new document defaults, because this, right, so if you're here, somebody, whether it's the builder, the approver, or the in review, or the approver has finalized what the email subject will be. When you get to create a new document in EMAS Recruitment Pro, you're going to need to put in the email subject line. So we have found that it is easier to have EMAS 2 screens open, or at least be able to toggle back and forth between EMAS Campaign Builder so that you can copy and paste the subject into that creating new document defaults screen. And then you're also going to need the export file name in the name communications so that it shows, so that you insert it here so that it also, again, shows up in the create new document defaults in EMAS Recruitment Pro. So that's just one little time saver. Don't close out of EMAS Campaign Builder until after you've already set the document in EMAS Recruitment Pro, because you'll still need the email subject line and the export file name. All right, having said that, the only other thing that you'd need to do when you're choosing your document type is to make sure that you're choosing, as Roxy said earlier, which is, I know why this part is relatively simple for you all, that you would then just choose the HTML type, but we wanted to be sure that you knew at least for now, that .htm is not an acceptable file name when you go to save it from Campaign Builder. Always say with .html. All right. So with that, unless you have other questions, that's our training for today. On like stage 4 and 5, right? I'm going to come back here to, right, in finalize the content. Relatively simple, very quick and easy, making sure that everything is branded, spelled right, looks right, has the right pictures, is the right color hex codes, and then the exporting the HTML file. Would you like to see it? Or is that enough? And should we go into HTML editing elements at the moment? What's your preference?
Can we go into a little bit more editing? That's what I would say.
Editing? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And as we do this, I'm going to just, Alicia, are you good to go?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So just as a reminder, the editing is based on a different user guide. This is now the how-to guide template development, and Alicia's going to take you through that next steps. I'm going to transfer the screen to Alicia. So everything that Alicia is going to show you is in that wonderfully written how-to guide. So that if you go to do this by yourself, you can have that guide at your side, as well as the videotape of today's session, and off you go. Go for it, Alicia.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. So Lois and Roxy, are there any particular element types that you would like to go over today?
I'm going to let Kate answer that.
I don't think there's anyone in particular. I just looked at it a little bit. Like we've all said, we've been really busy. But so a lot of times we do a lot of graphic emails, and we want to make the image linked. So you just click the image, and it takes you to the department page. Is that pretty easy on here?
Yeah, so we can go through that. Just one second.
Great. Yeah.
Let's see here.
And then Lois, do you have any special requests?
Just if we could maybe review the togglers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
I'm just looking this over to see what is and is not configured yet, so I can help you out with this element. All right, so let's do substory 1 image. I'm going to close out of here, and we'll go into templates, and that was just for review because we've done this before, but this is our practice email that we were building together on the last couple of trainings, and that's based on our practice template, which we've been developing elements for together during our trainings. So I'm going to go ahead and go into that our practice template here in the templates library. And it's getting buried because we test so very much. We're having so much fun with this program, I have to tell you. It's really slick. Everybody in the office is just playing and having a great time. Okay, so we are in our practice template. I'm going to go ahead and toggle the view so we can see more of the code. And my intention here is that I'm going to get that substory 1 image into a an editable element. So I'm going to scroll down through the code until we see the substory 1 section. It's probably going to take just a minute here because we got to get through this stuff at the top. That was the pre-header. Here's our header. And there's the main story. Going to go down just a little further there. And there's the section header. Okay, now we come to substory 1. So scrolling down just a little bit through here, right, there's the text. I can see that there. Substory 1 text. And there's the button. And the image will come after the button, I believe, because the image is on the right. Yep, so there it is. There we can see the image living right here. So, in answer to your question, I think it was Kate that asked this, you want the image to be able to be a hyperlinked image. Correct. So as you can see, we have an A tag that's already living around that image tag. So just...
Alicia, can I stop you for just a second? Mm-hmm. What's an A tag?
The A tag is what controls the link.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to grab the link tag as well as that image tag that lives inside of it. I'm going to highlight that whole thing, come up here and say insert to create a new element out of that. Actually, I'm going to back up. Let me close out of this really quick. I am getting ahead of myself. Once I highlight this code, this is best practice. You want to copy this and put it into something you can see. Alternately, just have the entire template code open in Notepad++ on the side. Either one of those methods is effective, and the reason is because we need to be able to refer back to this code while we're configuring that element, because the element will overwrite this code. So I'm just going to pull this guy over here on my other screen for the moment. Now I have that code highlighted and copied out. I'm going to go ahead and say insert. And we will select the image selector type element. You'll see your options change down here as soon as we do that. Giving it a label, and the label is what is going to be shown to the builder in the email as they're editing. So we need to make it pretty intuitive for them. I'm going to call this substory 1 image. And then we'll select a folder where the image needs to come from, and what this does is it limits the builder to only one folder where they can grab a different image. So the folder that I'm going to use for this image is this one. And then we'll need to select a default image, which is the image that will appear in the email for the builder when they first get into it to edit it. They can either leave it as is, or then they can change that image. I'm going to choose this Whimsy Pick 1 as the default image. And the generate, this is...
I'm going to stop you there because you have some thinking there behind why you chose that one, and that's because the size of it, right, matches the size of the image you're trying to create. Is that correct? I just want to double check that.
Yeah, that is correct. So ideally, the folder that you give to the builder would contain only images of that size. For example, if you have the same size image in substory 1 and substory 2, you can give them this folder for both of those. But as you can see down here, I have some different little smaller ones. This is not the ideal setup. This is my testing setup. But in your ideal environment, you would have these smaller ones for your mini stories, or whatever you guys call those sections of your template. These would live in a different folder so that the builder could not choose those to go into the larger slots, if you will.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the generate field is whether you wanted to generate in the HTML code that comes out of this the complete image element or just the link to the image. Usually that's just going to sit right there at the default, which is the complete image element. The URL is going to be a default URL that the builder can change. So right here I'm just going to go ahead and plug in our website. And then in the image attributes field, this is where you can go back to your code and see if there was any special formatting that needs to be plugged in there. For my purposes here, it looks like really we're just looking at width and height. So I'm just going to take that and copy it and paste it right into this field. Now again, this is going to be editable by the builder, so there is the possibility that the builder could change that width and height. If you don't want them to, just don't include that there and let the image be the size that it is. So I'm going to go ahead and save that element. You can see now that the element has overwritten that code. And then I'm going to say save and update, which will update not only this template, but all of the emails that are based upon this template. Now that that change has been saved, I'm going to go back into our practice email. And now you can see that we have a substory 1 image element right here on the left. I'm just going to scroll down in the template a little bit so we can see what we're looking at here. This is the image that's being talked about. This is the substory 1 image. So if I use my little drop down here and I select the substory 1 image element, I'm acting as the builder now. And you can see that the builder has 3 options that they can change. They can change the image itself by clicking select image, and that'll take them right into the folder that you assigned to them. They can also change the URL of the image, and they can also change those attributes that you provided for them. So I'm going to go ahead and select a different image, just so you can see that it does go ahead and change in there. We'll select Whimsy Pick 2 because I already know that's the right size. And applying changes. And now you can see that that image has changed to the one that the builder selected. You can also note that as my mouse moves around and I hover over that image, if you look in the lower left-hand corner of my browser, you can see the link. So that's pretty much it. That's the image selector. Any questions over that?
I don't think so. No, thank you.
Do we want to save this? Yeah, I'm going to save it. Okay, and then Lois, you asked about section togglers?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to go into, I have a toggler email here somewhere, if I can find it. There it is. All right, so it looks like we have a toggle on the substory 3 section and the mini story 1 section. Oh, there's a couple more up here too. There's an image toggler, substory 2 toggler. Okay, so did you want to see more on the creation of those togglers then in the elements?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do, hold on one second. I'm trying to figure out what's configured and what's not. Okay, I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to get into a different I'm just trying to figure out the best way to get this done for you. Hang on one second. All right, so we're here in this template, which we're calling how-to template. I believe this was a testing template of ours. I'm going to go ahead and select toggle view so I can see more of the code. And then I'm going to make the decision, let's go ahead and get into preview mode so we can look at this thing. And I'll change that device size so we can see it. Let's go ahead and say that we would like to be able to toggle out or in that first substory, this whole section right here. So in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and get into the template and scroll down until we find that substory 1 section. And again, this is going to take a minute as we get through those upper portions of the template. Okay, there's the main story. And the section header. Okay, here we are at substory 1. So this comment tells you that this is the beginning of that substory 1 section. If we scroll down a little bit through that substory 1 code and we come to the end of it, you will see that there is eventually, come on, there it is, end substory 1. That's what we were looking for there. Okay, so everything through the topmost comment, that's begin story substory 1, through the end of that section, which is commented in substory 1, that entire thing is going to be the section that gets toggled. So what we need to do in order to make that happen is we're going to place our cursor right at the beginning, right where it is right now, at the very beginning of that comment that says start substory 1. The section togglers are a little bit different than the other elements in the fact that you don't have to highlight all of that code. All you need to do is just go ahead and place your cursor at the beginning of the section you want to toggle and say insert to create the new toggler element. This will make more sense in just a second. So then we're going to select the type section toggler. And there is only one option for section togglers besides these checkboxes at the top, and that is a label. So I'm going to say substory 1 toggle. And we'll save that. And you'll see that what happens when we do that is that you get both the toggler start and the toggler end elements. So what we're going to do is we'll place our cursor right between those guys. I'm going to highlight the toggler end element and Control X to just cut it. So what we've essentially done is place that toggler start element at the beginning of the substory 1. Now we're going to take that the cut element, the end one, and come all the way down here to the end of substory 1, place the cursor there at the end, and paste it. So now you have your bookends, the toggler bookends on either side of that substory 1 section. Once that's done, that's it. We're going to say save and update to update the template as well as any emails based on this template. And then we'll close out of this. And I need to either find an email based on that template. Oh, here we go. Very good. So this email is based on the template we just edited to have that toggler. And now we can see we have an element here called substory 1 toggle. Now you will notice that all of the elements that live in here that are not toggled elements, they're all right here on the leftmost edge of this nav pane. The substory 1 toggle is also at the leftmost edge, but then you notice that all of the substory 1 elements are now sort of child elements of that toggle. The reason for that is because, I want to make sure we can see what we're doing here. If we get into that substory 1 toggle, and we say section visible no by unchecking that box and apply changes, substory 1 is now gone. Everything else moves up and it looks like the email never had it in the first place, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing in my opinion. The other thing to notice though is now look, the child elements of substory 1 are gone. That is because you no longer have a substory 1 to edit. So you don't need any substory 1 elements. So what that toggle element does is it treats those child elements as child elements, basically. So if you have the toggler off, those elements are no longer available to the builder. If we toggle that story back on by checking the section visible box and saying apply changes, we'll see that substory 1 go ahead and show up back up again for us, and now we have the substory 1 elements available once again to edit. Any questions over that?
Nope, that's pretty clear.
Okie dokie. Anything else you guys wanted to cover in terms of elements?
Seems we have time for one more. I think we've got about 12 more minutes before the end of the hour. We have one more time for one that we could squeeze in. Do you have one on the top of mind, Alicia, that you think would be beneficial to both CSU and ESU?
Yeah, so one of the ones that we haven't covered yet is called the selection element. So I'm going to see if I can find something that will enable me to show that to you, because the one that actually, you know what? Because we haven't done this before, we can go with our standard Our Practice template and Our Practice email, I think. Let me just double check that email to make sure we don't have one of those. Okay, we do not. All right, good. Okay, so, excuse me, I'm going to go into Our Practice template in the templates library, which is down here. All right, so just going into preview mode to show you what it is that we're looking at here. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take this tagline and I'm going to turn it into a selection element, and what that's going to do is it's going to allow the builder to switch out that tagline to some other tagline, or you know, choose from one or more taglines that you have provided to them as their option. So they don't get to make it up, they get to choose from pre-approved taglines that you provide to them. So I'm going to go ahead and select that toggle view button to see more of the code. And then I'm going to scroll down into that main story section until I find the tagline that we were just looking at in the preview. Okay, there's our main story. There's our main story headline and main story body text here, and you can see we have this comment here that says tagline after main story. That's the one we were just looking at in the preview. So I'm going to go ahead and select that whole thing, including the P tags, which is paragraph. And then I'm going to say insert. And this time we're going to go ahead and select the type being selection. You'll notice those options at the bottom change as you do that, and we're going to first off give it a label that the builder can understand. So I'm going to say tagline selector. Whoops, better spell it right. Okay. So the way that this is done is we're going to give them some choices. So for example, let's say their first tagline is going to be student success simplified. So I'm using the EMAS Pro stuff here just for example. And we'll give it a label, tag success. We're going to add another choice. Maybe this tagline says grow your pro. And we'll call that one tag grow. Maybe we'll add a third choice for them and we'll say this one is take your expertise to the next level. And we'll call that one tag expertise. All right, and the final, and you can do that as many times as you want, right? So you can give the builder 3 options or 6 options or 10 options, however many you want. The final step in this process is to choose a default value, and what that's going to do is it's going to plug in whichever one of these taglines I choose as a default to be the default in the email that shows up for the builder by default, and then that's the one that they can change to any one of these other ones. So we'll just go ahead and tell it Student Success Simplified is the default and save that element. You can see the element now overwrites the code. And I'm going to go ahead and say save and update to update this template as well as any emails based upon this template.
I just want to take this time, as Alicia is saying, overwrite the code, that as another best practice, we hope that you're all saving your original templates as original and don't ever touch them again once you've saved them, and then duplicate them so that you can do this work and not lose the original template, because marketing may have worked so hard on it, right? Keep that one original and build your templates for EMAS Campaign Builder from a duplicate copy.
Yeah, absolutely. I always keep a copy of my template code in my actual local files as an HTML file, just for that reason. So if I overwrite code in the template with an element and then I go back and realize I want to take that element out and put the original code back to do something else with it, I have that code in a separate copy. All right, so now we have our, you can see our Student Success Simplified tagline sitting there by default because that's what we selected for the default. Here's our tagline selector element. So if we click that, it's going to give us a drop-down menu that will allow the builder to choose any one of the taglines that we provided to them. So let's say that the builder chooses to do the tagline, the tag grow tagline. They're going to change that option to that particular tagline in the list and say apply changes. And now you can see that the tagline has been replaced with the Grow Your Pro tagline. So this is a good way to sort of give the builder a little bit of flexibility to change little pieces of the email without really compromising your branding standards, because again, they don't get to write the tagline. They only get to choose from a set of pre-approved taglines that you have provided to them. Now this is just one example of the set of the selector element. I have chosen to apply it to a tagline. You might choose to apply it to a button text or to a headline or to a nav link. It's up to you, but that is essentially what it does. Any questions over that? Okie dokie, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Sarah.
Great, thanks. So there we have it. We have next Friday, this coming Friday, another, that should say Friday, August. Yeah, no, 18th is right. Another 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific time session dedicated to the other remaining HTML editor elements. So we'll see you next time. If you have any questions, you're welcome to stay on. We'll certainly do some deep diving right now. Otherwise, we'll see you on Friday. And again, your HTML editors are welcome to attend and join us if they're available. Quick question: how are we doing on helping you through getting started? I know time is a crunch, but are we giving you the information you need so that when you find your time on your calendar, you feel like this is easy enough to be able to go and do it for yourself? Roxy and Kate, if we can hear from you, and then Lois, if we can hear from you, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Okay. Yeah, the videos are helpful, and the user guide has been really helpful as well.
All right, cool. Lois, for you?
I think you guys are doing an awesome job. It's easy to understand, and I really like having the videos or the recorded versions so that we can review those.
Okay, great. Then we'll keep doing that. On Friday, then we'd like to hear from you, or do you already have it, if you have it in your head, when after Friday might be a good time to meet? Should we do something next week, or should we wait 2 weeks? What's the better use of your time? And we'll go Roxanne again, and then Lois. What's your preference?
Check the calendar.
Okay.
Can you try for something next week? Yeah, we can.
Yeah, we could try for something next week.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Tuesday, Friday? Which is your preference? Another day?
Hang on.
Okay.
Probably not Monday. That's our first day of school.
Yeah. Tuesday, we don't have anything going on Tuesday right now.
Okay. Lois, Would Tuesday work again for you?
Yes, it works fine as long as it's in the morning.
Okay. So earlier than our usual start, would that be helpful?
No, this
if
is
we did
fine.
An 8.
I don't need it.
Okay. All right. So then we'll schedule another one after Friday. We'll schedule one for the following Tuesday, same time, 10 a.m. Pacific.
Great.
And then we'll just keep going like that. Like we'll just keep making ourselves available as you're learning to grow into this. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll stay on if you have questions, and otherwise we'll see you Friday.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sorry, I don't think we have questions, but Roxy answered the phone, and I don't know how to get out of this, so.
Are you on your laptop, or are you?
Yeah, on her laptop, yeah.
Do you see a little orange arrow pointing to the right?
Yeah.
Okay, if you click on that and move it open to the left, you should see a menu.
Okay. She's trying to help me get out of here.
Oh, okay, hang on just a second. Sorry about that.
No worries.
We're just going to leave if you don't have any.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Okay.
All right.
See you next time.
Thanks. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.